dirt road off a 2-lane past a shot up county sign. Squeaking of a backyard screen door letting you know that it's
The Putnam Personalities podcast exists to highlight the good, the positive, and the inspirational in our community. This episode is not an endorsement of any political or religious ideology. This podcast is a simple interview to get to know our friends, neighbors, leaders, and colleagues on a more personal level. Sit back, grab some sweet tea, and enjoy today's interview.
Sounds like home to me.
Well, I'm glad to have Mr. Walt Pellicer with us today. And did I say that right?
Pellicer, you got perfect. Walt, technically, my name's Walton, O-N. My dad's was the same, and I guess over the years it got cut short to Walt. And as I tagged along behind him, working and doing things, I got tagged Little Walt. So I tell him, call me anything but late for supper.
Okay, there we go. I'm looking at me. You can probably tell I've not missed many suppers. So,
myself, I'll
anyway,
either.
So I apologize. I got this cough today, and it's about to drive me crazy. But
Yes, sir.
I got my water here. Hey, I'm glad to have you on this afternoon. And I know last week we had one of your opponents that it's running against you. He was on here and told him that you would be in the hot seat. Actually, it's really not a hot seat. I don't throw any curveballs. It's just our conversation is just simple. It's more biographical than it is anything political or religious. Now, I realize that politics and religion do make up a person. I get that. But this is not a political or religious podcast by any means. But I wanted to have you on. I'll show one of your signs is I even take out the little vote on top because I don't want anybody to think I'm telling them to vote for you. But I erase that. But this is Walt Pellicer. This is the signs you may see around town. There's also red ones with the white lettering. And so, anyway, and a picture, yes.
Yep.
And well, that being said, if you do win this time, this would not be the first time that you were county commissioner. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I served previously from 2012 to 2016.
Okay.
I was elected as a Democrat. At that time, the county was Democratic dominated politics.
Okay.
And then this thing came through town, Mr. Trump. And I call it the Trump train. And everybody jumped on, and I believe thoroughly that they voted party and not person, and which I disagree with. I am a Republican now. I've been a conservative all my life, but I go back to the old term, I'm a Dixiecrat.
Okay.
Now, if you're old enough, you'll know what that is. That's one of the old Franklin Delano Roosevelt terms. But conservative, very conservative. The old time, you work for it, you earn it. That's the way you get it.
Okay.
I don't sit here with my hand out for nothing in my life, never have. But lost then. And then I ran again in 2016. And the current holder of this office won. And my thorough belief is that there was another boy in the race that I went to school with, and he and I, same age, hometown boys, and we absolutely just split everything. We had families split down the middle, and not that they disliked me or disliked him, but they knew me a little better, knew him a little better, and we're still friends this day. And matter of fact, he supports me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's
So you grew up in this county
all my life, born here in 1963.
Okay. So your dad was. So we don't usually talk a lot before, but I had to get some things set up because I was running late, and I do apologize. But I was making a hospital visit. But you had mentioned, I asked you about what it was like living in the home of a sheriff, and go ahead and tell me what you told me about that.
I was born not quite in jail, but pretty close to it. The first 9 months of my life we lived in the jail. It was back then. It was part of the sheriff's salary that they provided him living quarters. Okay. And my mother was the matron. And when I was campaigning the first time, I put a little twist on it, and I said, I had to pull 9 months. I said, my sister, I have an older sister. I said she was a little rougher. I said she had to pull 6 years.
Oh, wow. You say your mom was a matron. What did that entail?
Feed the prisoners.
Okay.
I'm
so she
sure
cooked all the meals and all that?
Cooked all the meals, probably washed the clothing and things like that.
Okay.
And this is when the jail was down on 7th Street.
Okay.
And the jail that was built on the river opened in November of 63. I was born in February of 63. And I always call that the jail that got me out of jail.
Okay.
And my family moved on River Street, and we lived there My sister recently sold it, but we've owned it for all these many years. But I lived there 20 odd years before I moved to where I live now in the Penile area. Okay. And I absolutely love where I live. I love my home, I love my property, and that's where I plan to stay.
Okay. So growing up, well, let me ask you this, because I was thinking, as far as the matron goes, is that like a separate paid position, or is that something that just kind of came along with the territory?
It's
okay.
benefit of being married to the sheriff. I think. I don't think she was a paid employee by no means.
So I don't know if you know this story. And I haven't heard it in a while, so I might get a little bit of detail wrong. Now tomorrow I'm interviewing the lady that I'm telling you this about, but she told me that years ago when your dad was a sheriff, her and her mom came to town. She was a single mom. And they were stuck on the side of the road, and they kind of had nowhere to go, and your dad helped them purchase a house. Have you ever heard a story like that before?
No, I haven't.
Well, you'll hear it when it comes out, and it's nothing bad. It's a good story, and it's like this person really looked up to your dad as being sheriff because he helped this single mom and this family get on, solid ground.
That's probably one of the biggest reasons why I learned public service from him.
Okay.
But my dad was he loved people.
Okay.
Absolutely, and had a younger brother that my grandmother told me was just the opposite. They could have company come over, and my dad's younger brother would run and get under the bed, and my dad would run to the bathroom, wash his face, put on his hat, and run to the door and have his hand out.
Okay.
It was in him.
Awesome.
And I learned that public service and love of humanity from him.
When did he? No, he passed, I'm assuming.
In 2002.
Okay.
Yeah, he was sheriff from 1954 to 1988.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The longest serving sheriff in Putnam County history, second longest in the state of Florida.
Okay. Very good. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. We moved here in 2013, and so you were my first county commissioner when we moved here. Mm-hmm. I thanked you then, but at the time we had I think we called it Public Servant Day. We invited you and any county commissioner, and even at the time, I think it was election around that time, so there were some people that came.
Midterms.
It might have been midterms, but we had a special public servant day here at the church, and we had chicken meals and things like that we sold, and you were out there helping serve and cook and everything. And we raised, I think it was like $700 for what we wanted to do is sell the chicken. We provided all the chicken and the food. Some people in the fire department, they provided some sides, and our goal was to raise money for our volunteer fire department. So
very good.
Anyway, appreciate you coming out and helping us back then, raising some money to help our local fire department.
I learned that from him also. I don't know exactly how he got started at it, but he got to be pretty good at it. He would help every volunteer fire department, civic, fraternal organization, churches, just everybody you can think of with their fundraising efforts. And I got drug all over this county with him when I was a kid, and that's how I learned to cook like I have. And I'm a barbecue guy. I'm not nothing fancy. I'm not a chef. I'm just your meat and potatoes. I can anything on the grill. I can pretty well.
Well, we're getting to that soon too, because so as I was telling you, I was a little bit late. I was making a hospital visit, and while I was there, the lady in the hospital, I told you who it was earlier, but also her sister-in-law was there. Her name was Sandra. And but anyway, she asked me, she's like, so what kind of questions are you going to ask him? I said, why? I was just wondering. I was like, I've known him since he was a kid. So I don't know if you know who it is, and we're not going to say who it is. But anyway, her name was Sandra. But she did say that, so she mentioned the restaurant. So there was a Walt, I guess her mom or her worked for your family at the restaurant. So tell me about Walt's, or what was it called? Walt's Barbecue?
It was called Walt's.
Okay.
I'll tell you how that started. My dad had a friend who he was pretty wealthy, and he was financing another chain of barbecue stores that was kind of up and coming at the time. And everybody had told my dad, with his experience and our signature barbecue sauce, that you need to open a restaurant.
Hey, hold on. So I guess so the upcoming chain, is it still around?
Yes.
Is it Sonny's?
Well, if you want to say that.
Oh, yes. We can say it aloud. Okay. That's okay. We're not advertising, but I was just wondering. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
And he, this man all he did was put up the money and build a store for them, and then lease it back to them, and gave them a building to run. And they were all scattered all over the state.
Yeah.
And my dad said, well, maybe I ought to get into the Sonny's chain. He said, you don't need to do that. He said, there's no need in that. You have to pay a franchise fee, and a monthly part of your proceeds, profits go to them. And he said, you don't have to do that, so you can do this on your own. And he and my dad for months, I can remember, seemed like every weekend they were off riding through the county town looking for a site, property, whatever. And my dad's friend he was a business wizard. And, he said, we can't go towards the river because the river has Palatka cut off. It can't go any further that way, so we need to come this way.
Okay.
So they found a piece of property out on 19.
Okay.
And at that time, all there was a Gulf gas station, which was across St. John's, the Clay Electric building, the old Clay Electric before they built this one that's now the new one, which I guess been there 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And then I still call it the Jetway, which is the Verizon store down at the intersection of 19 and 20. And that was all that was there. We'll take that back. There was one building right across the street, which was a Volkswagen dealership, believe that or not. And that was it. That was absolutely it. Where Publix, the Big Lots, everything in that
Goodwill
County Country
and all,
shopping center, all there. I cut all the wood and burned it at that store, all the oak wood.
Oh,
there.
wow.
Yeah, as land was getting cleared and it was sort of close, I would go over and cut all the oak wood and used it at our store. But anyhow, they bought the property in 77, started construction. We opened in July 10th of 1978, and I was worked like a borrowed mule for the first several years of my life there, going to high school. And really, my dad instilled a great work ethic in me, and I'm very proud of that.
So he owned that restaurant.
Yes, he did.
He was sheriff at the time.
Yes.
But then your mom, who ran the restaurant?
My mother was pretty day-to-day operation. She was
Okay.
Until I, became of age and could do things, and I got it where I started handling all the catering outside and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And we ran it until 2008.
Okay.
And then family dynamics and things change, and we leased it to the Woody's franchise.
Okay.
And my father passed away in 2002, my mother in 2017, and my sister and I still have it together. And we have done extensive remodeling, and we've got it leased out to another group out of Jacksonville, and it's a different style of food totally. Okay. But it's going to look different when you walk inside.
Now, we're not going to ask you what it is. I know there's obviously a secret now.
No,
because
it's out of the bag. It's out of the bag. The contest is over.
Oh, is it?
It's called.
Sure, yeah. I guess, yeah.
It's I probably won't. They're Mexican, but it's not Mexican food.
Okay.
It's Mexican seafood. And I didn't know it, but there's a difference between East Coast and West Coast, and this is West Coast Mexican. Really? And they serve a hot and cold version of their seafood.
Oh, wow.
The cold's not really my thing. I like.
Wait, so cold meaning like temperature or cold meaning spice?
Cold. No, cold out of the fridge.
Yeah, okay.
They have a thing called a seafood tower, about the size of that cup, about as high, and it's served cold, and you kind of pick at it as it goes down, and it's different seafoods, and there's a dip, and there's vegetables and stuff. And it was good, but I'm an old country boy, and I like fried and grilled and baked and this type of stuff. But their food is very good.
So they'll have like fish tacos and stuff like that.
I'm guessing so. Yeah. They're going to actually use my sauce in the store in some sort of recipe that they've got of something with chicken in it, I think you told me.
So would now be a good time to show the sauce?
You can if you like.
I asked you if you'd bring it when you came, so Walt's original barbecue sauce. There we go. We'll leave it right here.
Yep. People
can see it because I don't know how this works. I'm new to this, and so usually I have a bottle of water or somebody else does, and I was like, you know what, we better pour it out because I don't want anybody to ever say, oh, they used my advertising. I don't know how that works. So I'm new at this. So, but you're here, so you don't mind if I show. But Walt, where can you buy this at?
Only have it locally right now. I've done some festivals, and it does very well when I have the time to go. But during the campaign season, that's kind of out right now. But locally, Palm Florist, they're on Palm Avenue. Okay. They sell it at the counter. If they don't have it up on the counter, you ask them because they've got a box behind there. They've let it run out and not put it up there. But anyhow, Highway Mart sells it.
That's the one where they pump for you, right?
Yes.
Across from the coffee shop and everything.
Yes, correct. Yeah. And the East Palatka fruit stand, they have one there, Satsuma, and they also have one in St. Augustine. And he sells at all 3 stores. Awesome. And that's locally where it's sold, and have it. It's,
so do you have a cut off of like who can carry it, or you'll take?
No.
Anybody that wants it, they can have it.
Sure, absolutely. Gotcha. This is the last batch of this old label, and this is just a cowboy that we found on the internet, and he looks okay, but the new labels are actually going to have my dad's face on it.
Oh, nice.
And there's a little history there. You can read that one. Time tells you a little bit about it.
Awesome.
But it's It's about a 70-year-old family recipe.
Okay.
It's good. I tell everybody, I've never had anybody roll their nose up. And go, ugh, I've never had that.
Okay.
It's not hot. It leans a little more to the sweet side, but it's not like another brand that's really, really sweet.
Okay.
So
what's a bottle cost?
I think they're all selling it for $5.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very reasonable.
Awesome.
It's very 12-ounce bottle.
Yeah,
and I have half gallons.
That's really cheap.
I have
good.
people that get the half gallons. They're my serious eaters.
Oh, yeah. I would say so.
They keep it right there in the fridge by the milk.
So a few weeks ago, I saw online, so I'm on Facebook and I see your face and I see the background of the restaurant. And someone's like, oh, Walt's is opening again. And so that was obviously a rumor. It got shut down pretty quick.
That got misinterpreted down at the radio station.
Because you own it. So
yes.
And Walt's is getting open again, meaning it was Walt's. And
what we did was everybody was all this hype was, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? And so I reached out to Denise Bramlett from Feed the Need, and I said, hey, I think we could have a little contest here and raise some money for your cause and have some fun. So we went on the radio and we talked about it and had a little contest, $5 guess. And, I'm very fortunate. I had 8 different people that were very interested in leasing that property.
Good.
So I'm very, very blessed that much interest was there. But anyhow, nobody guessed it, and I knew they wouldn't because it was, out of Jacksonville and it was different.
Right.
So we just decided we'd pull 2 winners, 2 people out of the hat, and so it's fair. I'm buying them dinners for the 2 different folks, and
that's cool.
And
so how many people called in to guess?
Oh, I don't know.
You know how much they raised or anything?
No, I didn't ever hear.
Okay.
I didn't hear. They had a jar with paper stuffed in it, and they just.
That's fun.
I said pull 2 out, and that's who's getting the dinners when they get open.
Well, I think most people are thinking it could be again, I don't know if I can use names. So one of those places that has a yellow and orange sign. That was the first guess everybody was asking about.
Oh, I heard everything.
Because they're all over the place.
It was a warehouse. It was going to be everything. It was going to be.
The steakhouse in town was moving there. I heard that one. They're going to move to their location.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of guesses.
There was a couple, 3 from, actually about half of them were from out of town. People that were actually interested.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then these people came along, and they're the real deal. They have 5 other stores in Jacksonville, and they're doing very well. And this is going to be their 6th.
Cool.
So
that's neat, and it's something new. It's something different.
Yes, sir.
So I mean, I'm sure we'd love to have another barbecue place, but there's quite a few. And
if I was a younger man, it would be Walt's. Actually, I would call it Little Walt's Barbecue, but I'm not. I'm still little, but I'm not young. So and it's a lot of work. When we were doing what we did, I had 30 employees, and I was really only closed 6 hours of a day of 24 because we served breakfast, and it's a long day. And I had some very good, dedicated employees that I just thank the Lord for, because they were really valuable.
So growing up here, did you go to college?
No, sir.
Okay,
no, sir. I went to college, School of Hard Knocks. That's where I got my PhD from.
But you raised a family here. You have a couple kids.
I do. I got 2 adult daughters. My oldest is an RN here at our local hospital in the emergency room, and she works at the Putnam County Jail. That's kind of ironic. And she distributes the medications to the inmates.
Okay.
And then my youngest daughter is in dental assisting school in St. Augustine, and because dental hygiene was full, and they say that's like a precursor to get into dental hygiene, and she wants to do that. And then she said, Dad, if I really like it, what do you think about me going to dentistry school? And I said, I think it'd be great. I think I'll be broke.
Yeah.
But it would be great. But both my daughters love Putnam County, and they don't want to leave. This is home, and it's my home, and that's the way I feel about it, and the love I have for it, and they feel the same way.
Awesome.
They feel the same way.
So you grew up here, you raised your children here. What are some of the things that keeps you? I mean, obviously you grew up here, so that probably keeps you here as well. But what are some things that keeps you here in our county, like other than history, or what are some of your favorite things about our county?
I love our river. And as a kid growing up, I've water skied, jet skied, swam, everything you can think of in that river, from one end of it through the Putnam County area. I love that county. I'm a hunter. I'm very much on the Second Amendment. I'm big on guns and keeping bear arms. And I hunt I have hunted in Putnam County, but most of my hunting's done in Flagler. I'm in a hunting club over on that side. And that's where I spend most of my time in the winter time.
What do you hunt? normally?
Deer.
Okay. Do you ever hunt out of state?
I have. I'm looking forward to getting back into that. I worked out of state for, I came back in August, and I'd been out of state for about 3.5 years working on some military bases for a contractor, which was very good to me. It allowed me to take care of some financial obligations that were tough, and I beat them. And
so working for a contractor, what kind of work is that?
I was a welder. I was a
nice.
welder. We worked all out in the Panhandle. The bulk of my time was in Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi, and right next door to Biloxi. But good man to work for, good company, good money, good work, fairly clean work, mostly inside what I did. So wasn't a bad job. But it's a long way from home, and keep up with my kids on the phone. And that was
right.
FaceTime and all that kind of stuff.
How long ago was that when you was working there?
I came home in August, this past August.
Oh, you were
coming up on a year.
Recent.
Coming up on a year. That I've been.
Is there any type of specific welding you do, or is it just welding in general?
Just carbon steel. I mean, I can weld stainless. I've welded some aluminum. I'm not real crazy about welding aluminum. It's a lot of work. It's very tedious. There are a lot of factors when you weld aluminum that you don't have when you weld common black iron steel.
Interlochen High School has a welding class there, and I kind of interested. Like, I didn't realize how many different types there is. There's underwater welding.
Oh gosh, yes.
I didn't know that. There's a lot of money in welding.
Yes,
so
tons.
If someone's looking for a good job,
it's a good
thing to do.
It's a good job, but it's a young man's job because that heat is brutal.
Okay.
I still like to weld when it's for me, and when it's for me, I do it in the spring and the fall or the winter. I don't do anything in the summer unless it's an absolute have to.
Right.
But it's a good trade that I learned from an old man that here in town that was a welder at the mill, and I started hanging out with him, and he taught me little tricks. He taught me how to work iron, pull iron, make iron do what you wanted it to do.
So the mill being
paper mill, plaquemine mill.
Okay.
Paper mill, GP.
So you worked there then?
I did work there one time, not far out of high school. Had worked at our restaurant, and just kind of wanted to, working with families tough, and I wanted to do my own thing. So I went to work at the paper mill, got a job, and worked kind of all over the mill till I got settled, got what they call getting permanent in the tissue converting. And I'd been out there probably about 18 months, and our manager at our restaurant left, and my dad came to me and said, "Hey, you need to come back and help your mother." And how do you say no to him? And my dad to me was larger than life and a gentleman, but he was he carried a gun. Right. It's hard to say no to a man carries a gun.
Exactly.
Dad or otherwise.
Exactly.
I joke about that.
No, I know.
Yeah, but he's a great man. I love my father very much.
So do you we don't talk really religion or theology or anything, but are you religious? You go to church anywhere? Or?
I don't attend like I should. I'll be dead honest with you. I was raised in the Baptist church there in Palatka all my life. When we opened that restaurant, we're open 7 days a week, and that consumed all my time. And
a lot of politicians start church when elections start.
Elections
are done, they quit church.
They do.
I'd rather you be honest and be upfront and say, yeah, it's just and that's fine. There's nothing that's between you and God. Not
there's a church right down the road from where I live that is really up and coming. They've just built a new sanctuary,
right?
And it seems to be doing real well. I like the pastor there. He's a nice fellow. He's easy to talk to. So that's a possibility that could become a home.
Okay. Do you has there ever been a time in your life that you can say that this was definitely a miracle or an answer to your prayer, like a situation you could think about?
Oh,
just a fun question.
I'm trying to think.
I've heard some pretty good stuff, so I just figured to ask you.
I got a little story to tell you, but it's not along those lines. I'm trying to think. When I won in 2012, I didn't know what to feel or you put up signs and people are saying I'm voting for you. Didn't really run into any negativity. And the night the election results come in, I mean, I was sitting there listening to the radio at the house, and I was just like, and my daughters were there, and I said, "Did I hear that right? Did he say that correctly?" He'd come around again, to our race, and he'd talk about it. I said, I think I'm winning. I mean, I really didn't know. I mean, you just don't know. You don't.
Who were you running against back then? Was it a long-term guy or a new?
No, the incumbent had retired.
Okay.
And Mr. Goddard, who's in this race again, is running this time.
Okay.
He was in it. Actually, there were counting myself, we were 7 of us.
Oh wow.
I beat 3 in the first primary, and they were all Democrats. And then I beat 3 more,
The
which no, they were back then there was no Republicans. Nobody ran as Republican. It was Mr. Trump had not got to town yet, so to speak. But then there was I think an NPA, 2 NPAs, no party affiliation, and then 1 independent. Seemed like in that deal. But I won very handily in the second primary, but I won pretty good in the first one too. In a 4-man race, it's pretty good numbers. And
so in your mind, that was a miracle.
It was pretty. I was astonished that but I had worked hard. I had really worked hard, and it was.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I have like lots of questions, and then when I go to ask it, I can't think what I was going to ask next. That's kind of a frustrating thing.
We got
anything that you would like, anything that you would like to say while you're on here. That's just something about growing up, and a story you like to share, just something that would be interesting.
I could tell you a ton of stories. I'll relate back to the barbecuing with my dad.
Okay.
I was probably 12, 13 years old. Couldn't drive. I remember that. And one summer, I promise you, every Saturday, my entire summer vacation from school, I was in the front seat of that truck with him going somewhere to barbecue chicken or pork or beef somewhere in this county for fundraising. And it was a proud moment to me. I remember I had my head over on the side window, 6 in the morning, we're going somewhere, and I'm trying to take a little nap before we get there. And I go, Daddy, why do I have to go and do this? And he said, because you're good help.
Yeah.
And because I knew what to do. And, and he had grown men that were, there, but I did it every weekend. I knew the process. So he knew I knew what I was doing, and he trained me. And that
was actually the question I was going to ask. I knew it was there when you mentioned that. So you talk about your dad helping do fundraising and stuff. I know like I said, you did that, help us here at one time. But as far as like organizations, things like that, are there any clubs or things that you're involved in, or that you work alongside?
Yes. I am. I'm a past master of my Masonic Lodge over in Hastings 3 times. Helped him with all kind of fundraising efforts that we raise money for our charities, and then I'm past president of the Putnam County Shrine Club. And every Friday, other than a holiday, we have a steak dinner over there. And can I talk about that for a second?
Yeah. That's fine.
It's a 14-ounce ribeye.
Nice.
Or no, I'm sorry, New York strip.
And
$25, a giant baked potato, salad bar, soup, dessert, drink, everything. $25. We absorb the tax. There's no tip. It's flat $25. You cannot. If you leave there hungry, it's your own fault, but you can't beat it. You really can't beat it. It's a good say. Cook to your order.
You do that every week, you said?
Every Friday, other than a holiday. We're going to be closed this Friday due to the 4th. But if there's not a holiday, every Friday, 6 to 8, we serve 6 to 8.
So speaking of holidays, do you have what's your favorite?
And the public's welcome. Everybody's welcome.
Okay. And where's that at, by the way?
It's right across from the Putnam County Fairgrounds on Yelvington Road.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of holidays, what's your favorite holiday?
I love the 4th because our independence always reflect back. I loved history as a kid, and I'm probably weird.
Okay.
But
no, I did too.
I loved history.
That's why I'm doing this. I like to learn about people. So
it's special to me. Of course, naturally Christmas is big. I enjoyed it more when my kids were little, and Santa Claus and all that. Oh, there's a funny little story. When I was a kid, my dad was Santa Claus in all of the Christmas parades.
Oh, nice.
And I've got pictures of him, and you can see his face, and with the white thing and all that. And my dad had a special ring that he wore, and I remember telling my mom, I said, Santa Claus has got a ring just like Daddy. And of course, I was too little to put it all together, but looking back, it was. I remember it well. He'd be riding on the fire truck through the parade and all that. Yeah.
Any traditions any family traditions that are like unique to your family and any of the holidays that you guys do?
No, well, when my parents were alive, we got away from the ham and turkey, and we ate a prime rib on Christmas Day, or a big beef roast of some sort. My dad and I, we had cattle together. When before he passed away, we had about 150 head scattered in different pastures in a couple different counties, and I still have some cattle, not that many. But I still have a old family home place down in Flagler County, which I'm the 6th generation owner of that.
Oh wow!
And I have the house that my dad was born in still stands.
So cattle raising help with the restaurant business at all?
No, everybody asks that.
I was wondering
no,
that.
There's no way you could raise that much beef keep up
Oh,
with
okay.
it because we used a lot of meat. No, we were that.
I mean, are you able to do that? Is that
No, it has to. All that meat has to be federally inspected.
That's what I was
and all
wondering.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, you couldn't do that.
Gotcha.
I'll tell you a little different story. A lot of people don't know. They get a kick out of this. When in 1917, Flagler County was created. They took the southern half of St. John's and the northern half of Volusia, and they cut it out and became Flagler. Mr. Henry Flagler, big developer, railroad to the Keys, all that kind of stuff, and it was named after him. When it was created, the governor, they appointed the first sheriff of that county, and it was a man named Ernest Walton Johnston. And he and my grandfather were good friends, and when my dad was born, Ernest Walton Pellicer.
Ah.
And so he was named after a sheriff and grew up to be a sheriff.
Interesting.
Yeah, a little different.
That is interesting.
And he was actually a deputy for 7 years prior to becoming sheriff. And the sitting sheriff, Mr. Revels, passed away in office. And I think my dad had 7 opponents the first go around, and he said he campaigned this county from one end to the other. Everybody was behind him and supporting him. And he said he probably ate 3 suppers every night when he got through working. He hit the road, and if you were at their house, it was like, come on in and eat. You got invited. He said you didn't dare tell them no because that was an insult. So you'd shovel some more down. You wouldn't get as big a plate, but you'd have to eat everywhere you stopped.
So did you go to Flagler High School?
Did I? Yes.
Okay.
Class of 81.
81. Sports?
Yes. I was working. I didn't play sports. I was little. I little. I weighed 135 pounds dripping wet. I would have been on target. That's what I'd have been. I wish I was bigger and a bigger man. I would have played. Absolutely. I love football. Big Florida Gator fan. Go every fall, home games. One of my goals for my girls, and they're both big Gator fans, is we want to travel and go to the different stadiums in the Southeastern Conference every year. Pick one out or two, and
I always want to do I guess it'd be in the summer, but I don't know what you would call it, but just a trip where every day you're at a different baseball stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, I guess you could start down in Miami, and then you'd hit Tampa, and then you'd work your way up. And I think that'd be kind of cool just to do something like that. Do like I don't know if you can hit all the stadiums in one. I doubt it. It'd be expensive, obviously,
because you got a lot of travel time.
Yeah, there's a lot of travel. Yeah, we just did our family just did some. I love traveling. I love getting out and seeing the world, and helps you learn a lot.
It does. When I was in Mississippi, that far away from home, I made like 5 or 6 different punch lists of projects here, projects. Well, I sat there one day and I said, make me a bucket list.
There you go.
So I flipped over a few pages and I'm Walton's bucket list, and I started jotting things. And I think I've got like 14 on there of things I want to go and see.
Have you completed any of them yet?
I haven't even been to the first one.
So what's a couple of the things on your bucket list?
I want to go to changing of the guard at Arlington.
Okay.
I'm
going to check off the things that I want to see if I can check. Okay, I'm checking that one off. I've done that twice.
I want to see that. That'd be very emotional to me.
It is. It's really good.
I want to go to Mount Rushmore.
Okay, haven't done that yet.
I'd like to go to the Empire State Building.
Okay.
I've never stuck my toe in the Pacific Ocean.
Really? I've done that. I almost got. Yeah, I got stuck in a rip current at Mission Beach in San Diego. So I've been there. I've done that. I almost felt like I was going to die.
When I was a kid, we went fishing in Mexico, and we went to the Baja, which is part of the Pacific. Yeah. But actually, California, I've never done that. Never
That's
done
cool.
That. Oh, gosh. You kind of
So I'm going to throw okay, so this is, to me, I don't think people realize this, but you can get a very cheap flight to Las Vegas. It's not expensive. You can rent a vehicle. You drive 4 hours to the east. You see the Grand Canyon, which is that was on my bucket list.
Flown over it, but not.
So then my bucket list also had, for some Death Valley. I don't know why. I just heard about it in school, and I was like, that should be interesting. So we stayed in a little. Anyway, we flew to Vegas. My daughter got married a few weeks ago in Vegas. Her fiance, now husband, is from there. So we flew there, and then we drove to the Grand Canyon and enjoyed that, and then went back to Vegas. And then the next day we drove to Death Valley.
Right.
And man, that was beautiful. Like, I have so many pictures of Death Valley. It's just, you would think it's just a desert, but it's, when you show people the picture, like, what's all that white stuff? Well, it's sand. Well, it's actually salt. And it's just, it's very interesting. It's a beautiful, I don't know. I just really enjoyed my last trip. But
there were I use the term "don't throw rocks if you live in a glass house," and I grew up in a glass house, but it had a few perks.
Right.
And I'll tell you, we got to travel a lot with him being sheriff, and they have conventions everywhere every summer, and we would go different places, and we drove to most of them. So I've seen a lot for a kid.
Yeah.
Little old Plaque, I've seen a lot of the country. Not still got a lot more I want to see, but one of the perks that was a neat thing, they came here to film a Goodyear commercial for tires. And some executive with Goodyear had been over the high bridge at Rodman there by the dam, and I guess he thought that would be a great place to get a shot of a car coming over those Goodyear Eagle tires on it. And so Dad and them had to provide traffic control. So when the car was coming over the crest of it, they had the blimp here and shot the shot with the video. And so it was docked out here at K. Larkin Airport. And so I rode the Goodyear Ship Enterprise over Pellicer, and that was pretty neat.
That is pretty neat.
Yep,
that is pretty cool.
And I was out of high school, but yeah, that was pretty neat.
My son-in-law is a magician, and they travel and they do like speeches at public schools and stuff. And so my little grandson was born. He'll be 5 months in a couple days, and he's already been to 13 states.
Wow, he is a traveler.
So he's already a little world traveler. So like picked up after his grandfather. Cool. But I know I love traveling. Well, good. I'm glad you shared. Hey, I usually have like I have some lightning round. I've done things differently I don't know. I'm still getting comfortable with this and still out of my comfort zone in some ways, but I do like to ask some like sometimes lightning round questions, just some quick things that you don't have to like give a big answer to. But what's the last book you read?
It's called Before the Timber Was Cut.
Oh.
It's a local book on local history in the Flagler, Volusia areas down there, and it's true stories, bunch of true stories written by he's passed on now, but local author and a family name that. Being from here, I know a lot of those families, and it was before fences, and it deals with cattle and that type, which is a big interest of mine. And it's it's a thin book, and I've read it 3-4 times, and I go, well, I'll just read a chapter. Nah, I can't. Usually, I read it. You can read it in a day. Okay, but
I'll have to. I like to read, and I like to try to find some local things. So that's a book I'll have to get as well. So that's really good.
I really enjoyed it.
And then. I guess, so then at the end of my interview, I like to always ask the person I'm interviewing if they had any questions for me. Anything I asked you is open game to ask me. Anything that you'd like to ask me?
How did you get here? Where'd you come from?
Well, I'm going to tell you to go watch episode number 1. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm actually from the Tampa area. I was born and raised I was born in Pinellas Park, 1976. We lived out of state for a couple of years. My dad went to college near Chicago. So as a young kid, I moved there 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th and 5th grade. He came back in 6th grade. So I'm from the Tampa area, basically. And then long story, and I'll make it really short, is I worked with teenagers at a church, and I just felt like my time there was done. Like you know how it is when you're doing something and all of a sudden your heart's not there anymore. Your heart's not in it. My heart wasn't in it. And my wife had won tickets to Yellowstone National Park through a JCPenney button Christmas thing or something, scratch off. I don't know. So we went to Yellowstone for a couple of days, and while I was there, I just felt like when I get back, I just don't want to do that anymore. I just don't feel like that's really what I want to do in my life anymore. And so we came back, and I told the pastor, like, you're gonna have to find somebody else. I'm just, I love working with the teenagers. I just don't. My heart's not here anymore. I don't know what to do about it. And so I actually prayed this very strange prayer, and I guess I was doing a teen series, and I was using video games. And so every week we talked about a different video game, and we talked about Pitfall, which is a video game. And this guy's like swinging from ropes, and he'll fall in a pit. I thought how, sometimes in life, we're on life's journey, and there's things that trip us up, and we make mistakes, and it's like we're playing a game of Pitfall at times. And then talked about how Mario Kart, some of those racing games, you're just driving in circles. You're not really accomplishing anything. You're just around. And I said, I sometimes feel like that's my life. Like I'm just not accomplishing anything. And then my last video, one of the last video games I thought was Zelda. And Zelda is a game where you're this little guy with a sword, and I don't really play video games. So I was trying to be creative. And I said, I want to be like Zelda. I want to carry my little sword, which is, the Bible says the Bible is a sword. So I want to carry my sword, and I want God to lead me to doors I never knew existed. And that's what Zelda does. He goes around with a little sword, and he goes through pyramids and things like that, and looking for treasure, whatever. So,
Mhm.
so it actually became a prayer, like, Lord, lead me to doors I never knew existed. When I came back from Yellowstone, I told the pastor, I'll work with the teenagers for a while, but you really need to start looking for someone else. And he didn't take me seriously. Probably a month went by. I think it was May when we came back. Yeah, because we're in Yellowstone in May of 2013. And then in June, a guy called me, a friend, and said, hey, have you ever thought about pastoring a church? And I'm like, no, like, absolutely not. And then we hung up the phone, and I'm like, I'm praying a prayer that God would lead me to doors I never knew existed. A door opens, and immediately I shut it without even thinking about it. I called the guy the next day. I said, look, if God wanted me to go somewhere, I would go. I said, but that's not something I ever thought about. And so, to quicken the story, about 2 weeks later, somebody had called and said, there's a church in Hollister. Their pastor is moving. Would you be interested? I'm like, well, I can fill in for them. And so I did come. I think the pastor resigned this week. It was actually this week, July 4th, or that area where he left. And then a couple weeks later, which is a couple weeks from now, I came just to fill in. And then after 7 weeks of being here, they just asked us to stay. And I was like, okay. So we stayed. So they voted us and all that, of course, but the right way to do it. But yeah, they asked us to stay after 7 weeks, and we decided to stay. And so I guess next month they would have voted me in August or early September will make us being here 12 years. So
Wow.
I just thought about that. I'm like,
Wow.
It's been almost 12 years now.
I say that to tell you a story.
Yeah.
I had a waitress at our store,
Mhm.
and she was from Connecticut.
Okay.
And I said, how did you come to Florida? No relatives, no nothing. What brought you here? Both come from, her husband and her both came from big families, no children. And she said, we lived in walking distance of where we worked to our house. And she said it was winter. And every day at lunch, it was grab a quick sandwich and shovel snow so they could get out on the weekend. And said they were sitting there and said, aren't you tired of doing this? I said, I've had enough. I'm done. I want to go south where, if it snows, it's rare and it ain't much. They literally opened up, they picked Florida. Mm-hmm. They opened up a map. They held hands. One of them pointed a finger and they went, Hollister. This is the true story.
Really?
I swear to goodness. They load up. She said they went in, quit their jobs, cleaned out their bank accounts, and here they come to Florida, Hollister, Florida. And they're out here on 20, and they saw signs, and I'm assuming that on the north side of 20 in there somewhere, said house for sale. They literally drove up, paid cash for the house, moved right in, and that's where they stayed for the longest time. She came to me and applied for a job. I hired her. Her husband went to Gainesville, applied for a job, was hired over there, made his career there until he retired, and she stayed with me till I went out.
Really?
And I think since they've built a home in Hawthorne.
Okay.
But that was just a weird story.
Yeah.
They since have had their parents pass away and siblings. They never went back.
Really? For
nothing. They said, we're real sorry, but we're not coming back to that
Really?
cult. They're that done with it up there.
Really?
And to my notion, they're still in Hawthorne.
Oh, that's an interesting story.
It's different.
Yeah, it is. Different. It is interesting knowing how people get here, why they moved here, and
I'm here by my dad moving here to work as a boy from Bunnell, Flagler County. He came to town as a working cows with a man named Ray McCullough. And this was in the 40s, and they were doctoring a thing called the screwworm, and it would get in calves' navels when they were born, and you would actually rope the calf, and you would put medicine on it, and because the worm would get in through the navel, that's what its access point, and it would actually kill the calf. So Daddy said that's what they did at daylight till dark, and he looked for part-time work, and he came to Palatka and got hired at Checkerboard Feed, and then he wanted to moonlight at another job. So the sheriff back then, they said, you're a deputy, here's a gun, and there's a badge, and raise your hand, that's it. There was no schooling or anything like that. And that's how he got into that line of work. And that's, I guess, growing up, like I said, in the glass house, I never thought I'd get in politics. I never had a desire really to do. I certainly never had a desire to be sheriff. And I've seen things in my living room that y'all see now on these horrible shows about families and kids and all that kind of stuff. But
let me ask you, as a last question, let me ask you that. So is there any, as far as, just so you're off the hook on this one, but it's more or less your dad, is there anything like an arrest, a person, a case, something that was very that's the one that defined my dad? Is there anything that defines him specifically?
He made several, back in his younger days, he made several magazines solving some murder cases.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've been with him when he arrested people and, things like that. I've seen that. At the time I came along, he had a bigger force. And, now I think they probably have 300 or 400 employees out there. And my dad, I think, maybe had a little over 100 in his time when he went out of office in '88. It's just a whole different dynamic. But very proud that he served. He's the only sheriff to serve on the jail on the river down front. He's the only sheriff ever served out in there. No other sheriff. It's from, I think it closed in '87, 63 to '87, so how long it was open. Okay. And then they moved where they are now. And pretty neat little thing is he was the sheriff when they moved to the new building, which is out there on 19. And his name's on that plaque, and beside it is a plaque from when they made the jail addition while I was commissioner from 12 to 16, and my name is on the other plaque as being commissioner for District 5. So
that's neat.
And my daughter thought it was pretty neat to see both our names in there.
Yeah.
And,
It is neat. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and just sharing a little bit about your story. And I guess I like history too, and so this kind of helps me fulfill some of that desire of knowing more about you.
I saw something. Can you flip back to the thing? I want to just. A lot of people don't realize this. This line.
St. John's River.
That's correct.
I was going to ask you, and I figured it out before I asked you, so I didn't say anything.
There are 2 counties that the St. Johns River divides. We're one of them.
I didn't know that.
The rest of them border it. They all border it. Duval.
Okay.
Duval's the only other county. A lot of people don't know that. So we're very.
Where does the St. Johns River end?
Down in the Orlando area is where it starts.
It starts
and flows north.
Do you know where it ends north, or is it
flows into the ocean?
Does it flow where at? Do you know?
No, I don't. I don't
know
that.
Yeah, I don't know
that. But it's down in the Orlando areas where it's a lake down there that actually starts and works as well.
Yeah, it's such a unique story.
Yeah,
so I've followed it before watching the. Yeah. It is pretty.
I have a friend. I've never done the mug race, but he's a mugger, and he's never won. But anyhow, I told him, I said, one year I'm going to be in a position. I said, I want to get on your catamaran and let's ride. I want to ride to Jacksonville on the cat, just to say it's one of those things, bucket list things I've done.
So you've done that.
I want to do that.
So this picture here, I walk on 20 quite a bit, and I try to walk 3 miles or 6 a day, depending. And lately, it's off and on because of my knees. But I took this picture of the woods. To me, this reminds me of Putnam County. There's a lot of this.
It does.
And,
what's growing there is one of the lifebloods of this county.
Right.
Paper.
Yep.
At that mill. So that mill is very.
And with that being said, I guess because of time I shouldn't keep going, but I will ask this real quick. So the last person we interviewed, which was also running for county commissioner, we talked about Putnam County is a rural county.
Yes.
And a lot of people I realize are moving from north, and they get down here and they're disappointed they don't have this and all this and all this, but. And a lot of people are trying to make a lot of those changes, which not saying all those changes will be bad, but Putnam County is a rural community, and a lot of people move here for that ruralness. Is that correct?
I would say yes to a degree. We have been the sleepy little nook in Northeast Florida that has been just not bothered for whatever reason. Right. But you knew it was coming from the east, and every county around us is thriving. And when I was running the first time, I always said if we ever get an east-west, north-south 4-lane connector, we're going to take off. And we now have 20, which is 4 lanes all the way to Gainesville. Yeah. And it's 17 is going south to DeLand. And it puts, what it does is it takes people that say, I'm tired of that 95 and running 95. So they take the more rural route, still 4 lanes, and more leisure. And they go, oh, this is a beautiful place. Look at that river, and they fall in love with it, and that's coming. And all we can do as commissioners now, because this growth it's here. We have a big home builder who's just bought a bunch of land in East Palatka and is kind of guide and direct and put the stipulations on him that we want that will make him pick up the bulk of the bill and not us, the Putnam taxpayers that have been here all our life.
Right. So we're not building a stadium anytime soon?
I don't think so. I've not heard of a stadium, but we're going to get some housing. And, I talk to the law enforcement, the deputies, when I see them from time to time. I work part-time at a funeral home here in town, so I occasionally run into those deputies on calls and things like that. And I go, where do you live? A lot of them do not live in Putnam County. Yeah. And they just say there's no housing. There's none to buy. There's nothing here.
Well, I'll be honest, my wife and I would love to buy a house. We've been here 12 years. We live on property. We want to buy a house, but it's just honestly, it's not obtainable at the moment. It's very discouraging because we love to have a place of our own, but whatever. As time goes on, and the Lord knows all that. But,
Oh yeah, he'll make a way.
Yeah. But hey, I really appreciate you coming on, getting to know you more.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I'm glad you're able to make it, and again, sorry for being a little bit late.
That's all right.
And I'm hoping
I've enjoyed it.
these little microphones work because this building gets hot sometimes, and the air conditioner rattles. So hopefully, the air conditioner is not heard, and we are heard this time. So anyway,
Right.
I appreciate you.
I thank you.
And we're praying for you in your run.
I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you much.
Yes, sir. God bless.
Thank you.